On August 19, 1951, a man just 3 feet 7 inches tall stepped to the plate in Major League Baseball with a strike zone barely wider than a dollar bill. The official story calls it baseball's wildest stunt, but behind that, 1 in a million at bat, lies a secret contract, a desperate owner, and a plot so bizarre it nearly broke the game itself. Who really engineered the most disruptive walk in baseball history, and what was the cost for the man at its center? Bill Veeck did not just dream up a headline, he plotted a caper. The Browns owner needed a distraction big enough to fill empty seats and keep the league office in the dark. He started with a call to a Chicago booking agent looking for someone who could turn the rulebook into a punchline. Eddie Gaedel, standing 3 feet 7 inches tall, fit the bill. Veeck offered $100 for a day of work and a shot at baseball immortality. The contract was not a novelty. It was a standard Major League Baseball deal, signed and dated Friday, August 17, 1951. Veeck timed the filing for late in the day, knowing the American League office would be running on skeleton staff. The paperwork slipped through, stamped and logged before anyone realized what it meant. Secrecy was everything. Veeck did not trust the press or even most of his own team. Gaedel was hidden away in a St. Louis hotel room, shielded from reporters and curious eyes. When it was time to move, a Brown staffer drove him under a cover of blankets, dodging anyone who might recognize the new recruit. The players had no idea. Even the front office was left guessing. Veeck had one more trick. He needed to make sure Gaedel followed orders to the letter. According to Veeck's own account, he told Eddie that if he dared swing at a pitch, there would be a rifle trained on him from the press box. Whether Gaedel believed it or not, the message was clear. Crouch low, keep the bat on your shoulder, and let the pitcher squirm. Veeck measured the strike zone himself, crouching Gaedel down until it was barely 1.5 inches high, smaller than a flashlight battery. Every detail was rehearsed and locked down. The contract was in the dugout. The telegram to the league office had a fresh timestamp, and the roster showed an open spot. By the time the team and the crowd caught on, there was nothing the league could do. The stage was set for the strangest entrance in baseball history. Eddie Gaedel's entrance wasn't just a prank. It was a spectacle, engineered for maximum confusion. The crowd had barely finished laughing at the sight of a grown man popping out of a 7-foot papier-mâché cake when Gaedel, in a Browns home uniform with the number 1/8 stitched across his back, strode to the batter's box. At 3 feet 7 inches tall, he looked like a child lost in a world built for giants. The stadium's noise dropped to a low buzz as fans tried to work out if this was part of the show or a real at-bat. Plate umpire Ed Hurley called time and demanded an explanation. Browns manager Zach Taylor produced the paperwork, a signed contract, a telegram to the league office stamped with Friday's date, and a roster with Gaedel's name. Hurley checked each page, then nodded. The game would go on. The crowd's laughter turned to disbelief, then to a restless anticipation. Some fans stood on their seats. Others craned their necks for a better look at the batter whose strike zone measured barely 1.5 inches from knees to chest. The contract was valid. Bob Kane, Detroit's pitcher, stood on the mound, glove over his face, trying not to laugh. At 6 feet tall, he towered nearly 3 feet above Gaedel. Catcher Bob Swift dropped to his knees behind the plate, aiming for a target that barely existed. Kane wound up and threw the first pitch, high, ball 1. The second pitch sailed over Gaedel's head, ball 2. By now the crowd was roaring, swept up in the absurdity. Kane's third pitch missed again, ball 3. The tension in the park was electric. Every eye locked on the smallest man ever to stand in a major league batter's box. Kane lobbed a fourth pitch, Slower this time, but it too was high. Ball 4. Gaedel never moved the bat from his shoulder. He trotted to first base, pausing to tip his cap and bow as the stadium erupted in a standing ovation. His on-base percentage would remain perfect, 1.0000. Jim Delsing came out to pinch run, and just like that, Eddie Gaedel's career in the majors was over. In that single walk, the game's rulebook had been stretched to its breaking point, and the league's patience had snapped. Monday morning brought a different kind of spectacle, one that played out behind closed doors in the hands of American League President Will Harridge. The headlines had barely cooled before Harridge called the Browns' front office. He was not laughing. To him, the Gaedel stunt was not clever. It was a direct attack on the dignity of the sport. By noon on August 20th, 1951, a memo left his desk. Eddie Gaedel's contract was voided. Effective immediately, no player could set foot on a major league field without the explicit approval of the commissioner's office. The loophole Veeck had slipped through was slammed shut. Harridge's ruling was not just administrative housekeeping. It was a public rebuke. Newspapers quoted him calling the event a mockery of the game. The league wanted to make an example out of both Veeck and Gaedel. The contract, stamped and time logged just days earlier, was now a piece of outlawed memorabilia. For a moment, Gaedel's name vanished from the official records. The American League sent out a new directive: no more publicity stunts, no more surprise signings. Every player, no matter how small or unconventional, would need the league's blessing. Veeck, never one to back down, fired back in the press. He accused the league of hypocrisy, reminding reporters that baseball had always embraced its oddballs, players like Phil Rizzuto and Bert Shepard, who pitched with a wooden leg after World War II. Veeck told the papers, "If a man with a wooden leg can play, why cannot a man who is 3 feet tall?" His telegram to Harridge was blunt, daring the league to draw a line that separated spectacle from discrimination. The league's answer was just as blunt. Eddie Gaedel would be the last of his kind. The fallout rippled through every front office. Paperwork piled high on league desks as owners scrambled to make sure their rosters would not draw the same scrutiny. The new rule was not written in bold letters, but the message was clear. Baseball would police its own image, and the age of loopholes was over. For Veeck, the battle lines were drawn. For Gaedel, the door to the majors had slammed shut, locked by the very rule book that had let him in for one perfect walk. Eddie Gaedel's life, after that single walk, was not a story of baseball glory. The headlines faded, and the laughter that once filled Sportsman's Park turned distant and cold. Gaedel returned to Chicago, where fame meant little and respect was in short supply. He found work where he could, sometimes as a performer in novelty acts, sometimes behind the counter at a bowling alley. The world remembered the spectacle, but few cared about the man. His brief moment as a major leaguer did not bring security or dignity. The $100 he earned for that day's work was spent quickly. In the years that followed, Gaedel drifted through the low-paying jobs and endured endless jokes about his size. Bars became his refuge, but also his undoing. Police reports and neighborhood memories describe a man who drank too much and fought too often, pushed to the margins by the very game that had once made him famous for an afternoon. On June 10th, 1961, Gaedel died at age 36. The official cause was a brain hemorrhage, the result of a beating on the streets near his mother's home. His attackers were never identified. The news of his death barely made the sports pages, and the city moved on. When the time came for his funeral, the church was nearly empty. There were no teammates, no front office men, no owners. The only figure from the world of baseball was Bob Kane, the Tigers pitcher, who had walked him on 4 high fastballs a decade before. Kane traveled from Michigan to pay his respects, standing alone among strangers. In the end, the man who had been used to make a crowd laugh was remembered only by the one opponent who had shared the field with him. The applause was long gone. What remained was the silence, and the question of who really paid the price for one perfect walk. Baseball still draws lines on who belongs, who entertains, and who gets remembered. The rulebook closed its loophole, but the sport's appetite for spectacle endures. Today we cheer the improbable, but rarely ask who pays the price. Sometimes the smallest figure leaves the largest shadow. Share your thoughts below.